Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
I am Alex Haley. I spent my life as a writer and journalist, and I suppose I am best known for helping bring the stories of my ancestors and of figures like Malcolm X to the world. I believe deeply that family is the link to our past and the bridge to our future.
When and where were you born?
I was born on August 11th, 1921 in Ithaca, New York.
What was your given name at birth?
My full name at birth was Alexander Murray Palmer Haley.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
It's a bit of a family tradition. My middle names, Murray and Palmer, came from my maternal grandparents, Cynthia and Will Palmer. My father, Simon, was proud of that heritage, and it was a way of connecting me to the generations that came before me.
What was your hometown like growing up?
Well, though I was born in New York, I spent my early years in Henning, Tennessee. It was a small, quiet town in the South. That's where I sat on my grandmother's porch and heard the stories that would eventually shape my entire career. It was a world of rhythm, heat, and history.
What was your family life like?
It was very much centered on storytelling. My grandmother, Cynthia, was the heartbeat of our home. She and her sisters would sit on that porch and talk about our history, about an ancestor they simply called the African, who was brought across the ocean. That sense of family connection was everything to me.
What kind of kid were you?
I was curious, perhaps a bit of a listener more than a talker. I loved hearing the stories the older folks told. I was also a bit of a dreamer, always looking for a way to make sense of the world around me.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Like many young people, I suppose I feared not finding my place. There is a sense of displacement when you don't fully know your own history, and for a long time I felt that void.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
Honestly, I didn't have a clear picture of it as a child. I just knew I had a hunger for stories. It took me a long time to realize that storytelling wasn't just a hobby, it could be a life's work.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I was always drawn to anything that involved language. Reading, writing, listening to lectures, those were the things that made me feel alive.
What was your first job?
My real education started in the U.S. Coast Guard. I joined during the war, and while I wasn't doing much heroic fighting, I was doing a lot of writing. I used to write love letters for my shipmates to send to their sweethearts. That's where I learned to find my voice and understand how to capture the emotions of others.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I think I realized early on that I saw stories where other people just saw life passing by. While others were focused on the daily grind, I was constantly piecing together the narrative of where we came from.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Deciding to leave the steady life of the Coast Guard to become a freelance writer, it felt like a massive risk, especially when the money was tight, but it was the only way I could ever become who I was meant to be.
What was your biggest break?
Getting the chance to interview Malcolm X for Playboy magazine. That interview led to the opportunity to help him write his autobiography. That book opened so many doors and truly established me as a writer.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Financial instability was a constant companion. I lived in a tiny basement apartment in Greenwich Village, and there were many nights where I wondered how I was going to pay the rent. The craft of writing is lonely, and it doesn't always pay the bills right away.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Oh, many times. When the rejections piled up or the money ran out, the temptation to just find something normal was strong, but the stories I wanted to tell kept nagging at me.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Persistence. I believe that you have to sit down and do the work, even when the inspiration isn't there. And research. I spent years digging into archives, traveling to West Africa, just to find the truth behind the family tales.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I likely would have stayed in the service or continued to work in journalism. I've always been a reporter at heart.
What was your life like before fame?
It was quieter, but in many ways just as rich. I spent years interviewing all sorts of people, from jazz musicians to activists. I was learning about humanity one conversation at a time.
How did relationships change after success?
Success creates a strange distance. People start to look at you differently, as if you somehow changed, even when you're still the same person inside. It made it harder to know who was truly close to me.
Did fame bring happiness?
It brought fulfillment, but happiness is a different thing. Fame is exhausting. It's a whirlwind of travel, appearances, and constant demands. You gain a platform, but you lose your privacy.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The scrutiny. When you put yourself out there, you become a target for criticism, for people who want to tear you down or question your integrity. It was never easy to deal with.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People often thought I had it all figured out, or that my work was entirely a matter of historical record. They didn't always understand that storytelling, especially when dealing with generations of oral history, is a bridge between memory and truth.
What was your darkest moment?
Anytime I felt I couldn't finish the work I started. There were moments during the research for my major books where I felt completely overwhelmed by the scope of the project.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I suppose I often regretted that I didn't start my search sooner, or that I couldn't reach further back than I did, but we can only do so much with the time we are given.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
Many thought I was just a writer, but I considered myself a teacher, someone trying to remind people that their heritage, no matter how painful, is a source of strength.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong, and how did you handle it?
There were times when the research just hit a wall, or when the pressure of deadlines felt insurmountable. I handled it by going back to the beginning, back to the stories, and remembering why I started in the first place.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It gave me the freedom to pursue the stories that mattered to me, and that is a luxury I never took for granted.
What personal battles were you fighting privately?
Just the constant battle to be better, to be more precise, and to make sure the voices I was documenting were honored correctly. That kind of pressure is always private.
What was life like in your final years?
I was still driven. I was working, traveling, and trying to keep the momentum going. I was always looking for the next story, the next connection to be made.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was working on a novel called Queen, which was based on the story of my paternal grandmother. I wanted to make sure that side of the family history was also preserved.
When and where and how did you pass away, and how old were you?
I passed away on February 10, 1992 in Seattle, Washington. It was a heart attack. I was 70 years old.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I suppose most people don't know that I spent 2 decades in the Coast Guard. It was a huge part of my life before I ever became a full-time author.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
There was plenty of talk regarding the accuracy of my work. When you write something that touches a nerve, people will always try to pick it apart. I focused on the truth I knew in my heart.
What was your most unique habit?
I had a habit of constantly interviewing people. Even when I wasn't on the clock, I couldn't help it. I was always looking for that one detail that made a person who they were.
What was your favorite food?
Nothing beat the home-cooked meals I grew up with in Tennessee. It's hard to beat comfort food from the South.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I traveled so much that I was always in different places, but I always preferred a spot where the atmosphere was warm and the conversation was good.
What was your favorite book?
I don't know if I could pick just one, but I was always drawn to biographies and history, anything that told the truth about a person's life.
Did you have any known rivalries?
I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but there were critics who were very vocal about my work. We disagreed on the nature of history and storytelling.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
Well, there was a time I booked passage on a ship from Liberia to America and spent the nights lying on a board in the hold, just trying to feel what my ancestors might have felt during the Middle Passage. It was a haunting experience, but it was essential for me to write those chapters.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Oh, the interviews. I've sat down with everyone from Muhammad Ali to Johnny Carson. Sometimes the most interesting things happened when the tape recorder was turned off and we were just sitting there as two people.
Did you ever prank someone?
I was too busy working to be much of a prankster. I think my curiosity probably came across as a bit intense to some people, though.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I suppose my biggest investments were in my research, traveling around the world to find people who could help me connect the dots of my own past.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Know your history. You cannot know where you are going if you don't know where you've come from. And keep telling your story. The world needs it.
Those are some incredible stories, Alex. Before we wrap up, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to share with the listeners?
I'd just say thank you for listening. It's been an honor to share a bit of my journey. Remember that your own life is a story worth documenting, and your family history is a treasure. Thank you, Calvin, for having me.
Thank you, Alex. It has been a true privilege to speak with you today. We learned about your journey from those early days in Tennessee to becoming a voice for generations. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.